Hello and welcome to Industry 4.0, Technology and Innovation. I am Melissa Glossop, international speaker, business strategist, innovator, and author. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cost Technology, a revolutionary safety technology that is transforming the global modern workforce and enhancing industrial safety. On this show, I will focus on innovations to make your business better, faster, and more efficient. Each show will feature industry leaders who explore the issues that impact the growth and scaling of companies. This episode focuses on executive recruiting. Today's special guest is Jean Gamble. Jean is the owner of Jean Gamble and Associates, a recruitment consulting firm based in Chicago. She has provided search and recruitment consulting to the proprietary trading and hedge fund industries for more than 10 years. Her clients have included Peak6 and Sun Trading. She is a dynamic force building teams for technology organizations to scale and grow to billion-dollar exits. Jean, you are a powerful woman and an inspiration. Please tell us more about you and your rich experience in technology and beyond.
Melissa, thank you very much for asking me to join this today and for the kind things you just said. When I first got out of college, I actually majored in statistics and psychology, and which probably eventually led me into executive search. But I actually came to Chicago to work for a company called Lincoln Financial, and they own some investment firms here and title companies. And for some reason, the division I worked for, one of the senior vice presidents decided to choose me to be the interface between their division, the investment team, and the technology team to make sure that they understood the requirements of what we needed to, for the team and to drive the business. And so I had to really quickly learn a lot and learn how to effectively communicate that to the technology team. And it was just a lot of fun. And that's what generated my interest even in technology and how they did it and the tools they used. And so that's how it started for me. And then shortly after that, I was actually invited to be the head of the capital markets practice for computer sciences. And in that group, I also worked with trading firms and investment firms where we were driving technology to help them run their businesses. So it just started to kind of unfold.
That's beautiful. It found you.
And what's interesting about it, Melissa, is what I found during it. I think what's helped me in search is because I got to be, I had to learn technology skills actually, like how to learn specific databases to access information and actually almost design them for the technology team to show them what we needed. So I had to use tech skills. And what I learned was how much I learned from the tech team. It was, every day, it was like you were going to school because you had to learn something new and they were teaching you, and they were such nice people. And I started to realize that later when I got into recruiting and was asked to start recruiting for companies, it helped me that I had that experience because I knew how to ask specific questions and understand specific skills. And I realized how much I started loving building organizations.
And that is such an incredible skill set. You've had such amazing success building key teams for startups and successful companies. So you know the hard skills of the technology, but how do you identify the right candidate for the right team?
Well, what I found is, for instance, I was very blessed that the former chairman of Motorola, Chris Galvin, had reached out to me through people that knew me to have him help hire the initial people to start a company called CleverSafe, which was, their offices were actually on the IIT campus here in Chicago. And I was hired to recruit those people, and it was called CleverSafe, and it eventually, I think in 2015, he sold it to IBM. It became a very successful firm. But I think what I also learned in that is that there's people that have great tech skills, but they may not be comfortable in an entrepreneurial setup. Like there's people that would want to work there, and technology people that would be much more comfortable in a large company like a Guggenheim. So a lot of when you're interviewing them and getting to know them, because there's almost a shortage of them because there's such a need, is figuring out also the personality characteristics of who's going to fit in a big company that's already structured and going on versus an entrepreneurial one. And and kind of trying to assess their comfort with that. And I think that's helped a lot. And then the other thing, which I'm sure you know too, having built the company that you have, is understanding the culture of a client. There may be a client that's it's a very structured culture, and then there's another culture where it's more entrepreneurial and people can express themselves more. So you have to really understand the culture and then transfer those technology skills and people into that culture.
I couldn't agree more. I hear a word that's sort of floating under the surface of your message, and that's relationship. Could you expound a little bit more about how you build relationships with teams to help them grow?
I think, and I hope it's true, I really view that, honest to God, I've been so blessed because I don't care who my client is or how long I'm doing it, because in the last few years I've done a lot in the commercial real estate sector. Every day I'm learning, because they all do something unique, whether they're building energy, energy buildings or whatever they're doing, you're learning. And so when you're first like going and let's say I'm in Guggenheim in a big company and I'm assigned to work with a tech team that's going to develop specific things, a lot of it is I hope that you have, before you go in and meet with them, you obviously want to do your research, talk to the managers and be prepared for what it is they need. But a lot of it is also when you sit down with the tech team is listening and listening to them tell you what it is they do, because they're very good at what they do, and helping them to share with you what they're doing, and then finding out from them what they need from you to drive the right explanations to develop the software. But you have to have really good listening skills, because they really know what they're doing, and you many times don't know what they're doing in detail. And I think those have helped me develop relationships where they know I respect what they're doing, and then they treat me with respect. And I've had a couple situations where I've had clients that liked, they were happy with what I was providing, but I found myself after a few months, I didn't like how they treated the people that worked for them, and I didn't want to represent it. So you always have those situations too.
So you really have to know your foundational, your own culture and what you're willing to put up with, and not, when you're an entrepreneur representing other industries or corporations. That's fascinating.
No, and Melissa, what you said is really, really true, because I'm luckily I'm far along that I've done, well, and I'm conservative with my money, and I, especially with what's going on now, and I've been blessed this year compared to a lot of people. But I do know that I would not feel comfortable trying to recruit people into a culture where they're not going to be treated with respect. And I've been very blessed. I would say 99% of my clients have been really good to their people.
So you have also diversified from executive recruitment to commercial real estate. So from human capital to asset growth for organization. Were there similarities in finding success in each industry?
Well, actually in commercial real estate, I actually am involved in executive search from the standpoint. For instance, I had a client in Dallas who's one of my favorite clients, and Bob sold his company 2 years ago. But he called me out of the clear blue one day, in 2008 or 9, and asked me to start working for him, and we didn't know each other. And I helped to open almost over 15 offices for him around the country. So it is a form of executive search, but what I'm doing in that case is what we found worked better than trying to find individuals, although we did find some individuals, was to try to identify boutique firms that we could acquire. So it was like executive search from the standpoint that I was identifying the companies we should go after and what they were involved in. But then I also, for Bob and the executive team, would interview the people and make sure that was a fit too, and then keep the process going. So it really overlapped into executive search.
No, that is a brilliant way to help companies build and scale, and keeping within your true core competency of the human element. That's fantastic.
And Bob was great because he really did not, and the other person there, his name was Ted, and they really didn't want companies that, they wanted companies that fit their culture, and it was all about, they're very successful, they're very good and very respected in the industry, and they treat their people very well. And that's the kind of companies they wanted me to research and find. So we'd go in each region, and I would do all the research and kind of look at the stuff and check with other people in those, and then we would approach the companies.
So you've had an inside look at the technology industry for quite some time. What advice would you give to women trying to break into the engineering and technology fields?
I think, Melissa, I think today that it's much more open than it was before. And I don't think that was necessarily just discrimination. People didn't want them. I think there was a period of time women may not have been interested in it or didn't get in. You know, today when you go to college, there's so many technology programs people can study, and it was more limited before. And I think today there's just so many opportunities for women to go in, whether it's a big company, you know, in a leadership role, or even at a boutique firm. And I really feel there's a lot of respect for women today doing it. And I think that whatever you're interested in pursuing it, pursue it, because 99% of the time you're not going to get rejected because they do want you there. In fact, one of my clients in Florida right now, he's Cuban and he's hysterically funny. And he says whatever he's thinking. I'm acquiring some very executive level people for him. And he said to me the other day, don't forget to find some really good women, because I don't want to turn this into like a locker room and make it all men. And it's really true. You know what I mean? In the commercial real estate industry where they build buildings. and luckily we're finding some great women right now. But it's so funny when you said that, because I thought his wife is the CFO and she's a very bright woman, you know, and he's so respectful. And Bob in Dallas is some of his top executives, and even heading up their technology group there were women.
So I think you're absolutely right. I think the opportunities exist. Do you think that there is still a little bit of reluctance for women to put their hand up to take those bigger roles in organizations or the C-level positions?
You know what? I don't know, because I'm not in big companies as much right now. But I can tell you, there's probably, you know, a percentage of them that do feel that way because of what happened previously, but they shouldn't, because they're wanted and they're needed. And just, you know what, it never hurts to try, you know what I mean, to reach out and see. Because you know what, if they reject you because of that, you don't want to be there anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What does diversification of an organization do to the outcomes and the success of an organization from your experience?
What I find is, like for instance in Miami, I've worked a little bit in Florida, but not a lot. This is my first time in the last 6 months in, you know, he came as a president of one company, is now a president of another commercial real estate, and he's actually Cuban. And it's really been kind of fun because it's really important in those communities. You know, I'd say 40% of the people that we've recruited right now speak Spanish. You know what I mean? Because of the community. So there is that diversification of, you know, whether it's Afro-American or Mexican or, you know, Spanish or Cuban or whatever. But I feel like even my client in Dallas, all across the nation, whether I was acquiring boutique firms and merging them in or whatever, there always was that combination. And I think it's important because in that specific industry, and also in trading and investment, in the investment business, the big ones like the Guggenheims and Nuveen's, you have clients of such diversification that you need diversification, because we're all really one in the end. But you're representing everybody then. Like right now, I'm helping a client in Philadelphia. It's new for me. The government in Pennsylvania right now has funded these huge grants to build energy centers to process natural gas and energy in specific communities, and they have millions of dollars to do it. And my job was to pick out a commercial real estate firm for them who could help find those sites. And what I love about it is all about America. They're choosing counties where there's a great diversification of people and workers that they need jobs, and it's going to fund so much money in there and really help their economy. And it's going to affect everybody. It's total diversification. It's wonderful.
No, that's beautiful. Civil engineering and planning and helping, you know, the state grow with those funds instead of investing in locations and places that have already a saturation of success. So it's amazing that you get to sort of sample a part of all these different amazing opportunities and calls for people and calls for firms. So that's, you've really lived quite a colorful experience in your career.
Well, when you talk about relationships, Melissa, the person that asked me to do this project in Philadelphia, I hired him to be a compliance officer for that Gavilon, the startup energy company that was a spinoff of ConAgra in Houston, and they were very technology driven, and I helped build it out except for the traders all across the world. And Ray and I've stayed, and then it was sold to another big company, and Ray and I've always stayed in touch, and he actually is an expert in Washington, D.C. about energy. So he was hired by different states to come in and work with Democrats, Republicans, you name it, to kind of keep them updated and give them the foresight of what's happening. And then that's how they're deciding how to allocate funds and bring other companies in that want to open offices and have industrial sites there to process. So because of that relationship with Ray over the years, he reached out and he said, we had a meeting and I told them I'd like to use you to choose the commercial real estate firm because I know you know people in Pennsylvania. And so I made the recommendation yesterday that they're going to accept. And so it's just knowing him for years. And he is fabulous at what he does. And I'm learning so much that I never knew just hearing him talk.
No, and it's really rewarding to be able to develop deep relationships and empowering each other for success. You gave him an opportunity, and years later, by maintaining that relationship, he was able to return the favor and send clients and work your way. So I think that people lose sight that there is success for everyone, and that we're stronger together and building one another up rather than being so competitive.
Exactly. You know what? I wrote some material one day and I call it Life's a Symphony. And I think that everyone comes in life with gifts that we excel at. And it takes putting those skill sets together to make the symphony work. And when you're working in an organization, you don't have to pretend you know it all. It's a symphony. And know how to identify other people are really good at things that you may not even be, and then how to work together to utilize it to make it successful.
I could not agree more. So one final question. What leader in your career has inspired you and why?
I would say two. I was thinking about that after you sent me the question. One is Bob Moore, the person in Dallas that hired me to open the many offices. He called me out of the clear blue in 2008 and said, there's a woman down the street from you, and we were going to hire her to help open offices, and her husband's sick, so she gave us your name. That's how it started, okay? And it turned out my uncle built corporate buildings in Indiana, so I was familiar with it. And it started, and I respect him almost more than anyone I ever worked in my life. He is a very successful. He's done very well financially. How he treated me, how he treated other women in the organization, how he treated every single person who worked for him, inclusive of paying the bills for somebody who had cancer and passed away. Every single day, Bob just made me feel good about myself. I'd be walking my dog at 7 in the morning, and he would text me and say, do I thank you enough for everything you do for me? You rarely get that, and I so respect him. And the other person, believe it or not, was years back, Larry Ellison, the chairman of Oracle, had asked me to do some work for him. And at one point, he wanted me to move there and work in a consulting group, but I didn't want to move. And honest to God, he was one of the nicest people. Oh, my God, I'm sorry. He was one of the nicest people I ever met. And he encouraged me, and I think about this all the time. He told me one day, I can tell you're so good at what you do, but you're shy, and I'm not sure you're confident enough about what you do. And he told me that I should take up things like hiking in the mountains and doing physical things where I connect, where you get a level of confidence. And I started doing it, and I found him to be one of the nicest people I ever worked for.
That's amazing. No, those types of influences, something is a bit of a kind word or a text or gratitude in general absolutely can be rocket fuel to empower an organization.
It really is. And This one client of mine now, he tends to not do that. He'll point out the one little thing you did. And I've decided at some point, not that he says bad things all the time, but at some point I'm going to share with him, because that's how he treats the people on his team, is that what really turns people on is when you tell them really good things about the good things they do, then they want to do all the other things for you.
Absolutely.
That's what motivates people. We all want to feel that way.
I could not agree more. Someone who's